So a few months ago, I would see these unnamed-based intellectual Titan content creators making video after video praising Battlefield 2042. And I'd cringe. I just cringe to the max because I think anyone with their head screwed on correctly knew that that just wasn't the case at that time. Somehow though, since Season 3 a whole lot has changed, and I'd say the game is actually worth trying now, just a bit over a year after release. Constantly seeing these OG familiar names in the servers too, so that seems to be somewhat of a community sentiment as well. Anyways, I've had a few weeks to play the most recent update, and in my eyes, it's actually one of the best updates yet. It actually fixes a lot, and it fixes more than it breaks, which definitely says a lot compared to a lot of Battlefield updates, sadly. My mouse input is feeling a lot better, and at least on my hardware, it feels about the same as what you get in COD, which is pretty good. Then moving along to vehicles, the Nightbird is no longer sucked into the ground when you fly close. Some people call this a ground magnet. This is such an annoying bug. The heli would literally just roll over by scraping the ground, so having this gone makes a huge difference. The future of vehicles is also looking really good after DICE released their dev notes for vehicles in Season 3. They opened by saying that the Tor rail tank is working well and as expected. I really believe this to not be the case. I think this vehicle is the most effective when placed at the back of the map surrounded by Irish APS devices. It really is just a stationary turret, and that's just not an interesting playstyle in my opinion, and it is sad to see tanks used like this. Luckily though, the main battle tanks are actually getting some love and their playstyle is going to change a bunch. The first change is to the turret turn speeds. Both the MPAT and the staff shells, the turret speed is being doubled. For the HE shells, it's being increased by 65%. They're also going to be getting the APS systems from the Tor rail tank, and I think these changes are going to be absolutely huge and they're going to bring the tanks a lot closer to how they worked in previous titles. The maneuverability though, that is still definitely lacking, and talking to some people who used to be really good with tanks in the previous games, that's the first thing they noticed, the maneuverability and just driving around in these tanks, it is really cluunky right now. Then the turret speeds from the other tanks, they're also getting crazy buffs. I think the Tor will be at the back of the map still just due to how it's designed. But the Wildcat might become a solid farmobile like it was in BF4. You can see all the turret speeds on screen right now. Now for the last two vehicle changes, they are actually air vehicle related. Firstly, the helis and jets are getting below radar mechanics again. These were absolutely huge in Battlefield 4, and I can't count how many times I've survived just due to these below radar mechanics. Basically, if you fly 30 meters to the ground or lower, all vehicle-based lock-on missiles will not be able to lock you anymore. This is absolutely huge, and it's really going to change the game on maps with less cover, which to be honest are quite common in this game, especially with the older maps. You're also going to have a chance against Heatseeker pilots. It's all in all a very good change that every single good BF4 pilot has asked for since release. This change actually was a thing in Battlefield 3 as well, and it's just a real key part to Battlefield games that have lock-ons. If you remember the flight style in Battlefield 3 and 4, the good pilots weren't just flying and dragging their heli against the ground the entire time just to get that below radar advantage. No. When you go below radar, you give up some advantages. You're going to be easier to hit by projectiles like tank shells, like RPGs, all that kind of stuff. But you do actually get that little advantage if you are dealing with an air vehicle heat-seekering you or an AA heat-seekering you. It just adds a lot more room for outplay, and this is a very welcome change in my eyes. Finally, for the last air vehicle related change, they're actually going to break up the height ceilings between the helis and jets. Now jets will have a much higher skybox than the helis, allowing the jet to basically always get a height advantage. Battlefield 3 did not have this, and what it resulted in was pretty much just the heli sitting at skybox and killing everything, because it didn't really have a counter when it was at the skybox. In Battlefield 4 they fixed this by giving the jets a higher height ceiling, and then in 2042 they basically just didn't learn from their mistake in Battlefield 3 and went back to how it used to be. This has actually been a change that I've asked for since release, because I've always said this, but helis at the skybox are the king of air superiority. It's much more maneuverable than a jet. At the skybox, the jet really struggles, and the heli in a head-on-head battle at the same altitude will always win. So having an advantage in the jet by being able to go a bit higher, that's an absolutely huge change, and it's going to nerf the hover style of gameplay. I guess at the end of the day though, jets are still going to be very average. The physics is really bad on the jets, just makes them horrible to fly compared to older games. The weapons are really boring to use. I think jets need a full rework, top to bottom rework, maybe even replace them with the portal jets, but this change, while it's going to help you counter the specific thing of a helicopter at skybox, it's not really going to change much else. The jets just aren't going to be great. All in all though, one of my recent videos was titled Battlefield 4 is coming to 2042, and looking at all these changes, the turret speed, the height ceiling, the below radar, you can actually start to see it happening. Battlefield 4 changes are coming to this game, and while it is really slow process, I think someone at DICE seems to know what's up, because when it comes to vehicles, Battlefield 4 mechanics were just king. I think you can make the argument that Battlefield 3 jets were better, but you can also make the argument that Battlefield 3 jets were overpowered. When it comes down to it, I think all in all, Battlefield 4 had the best vehicle mechanics, and it is very, very welcome to see these changes slowly coming towards 2042. Anyways, what if we want to make the game a bit more like Battlefield 4 and continue this trend? Well, there's a few things I would do, and I'd start by nerfing most of the transport vehicles, because I don't think any previous Battlefield games really had the problem of transport vehicles being really dominant sources of attack. And the main examples are things like the Hinds just being absolutely oppressive against all air vehicles, the MAV being really, really strong as well. Just, these aren't supposed to be attack vehicles, guys. Not every transport vehicle needs a 30mm cannon on it, and I think we can tone those all the way down. Even in Battlefield 4, the transport helicopter with the miniguns, it wasn't the best, but with a full squad in Discord, we have made it work. There's videos of it on YouTube. We've even done it on Siege, got like a 100 kill streak with the thing, killing the attack helicopter in 1v1s. But we needed that full squad in Discord, that perfect team play, and then you can make it work. It shouldn't just be an I win button like it is in 2042. To even things out a bit more though, I would say that the pods could get nerfed a little bit on the Nightbird, and perhaps the flares could last a little bit less time. The flares do last a long time in this game. As a heli pilot myself, I abuse it a lot. I pop flares and farm 4 or 5 more people sometimes. It just does feel like it's a bit oppressive for infantry players. But then, infantry players can also be really oppressive towards the helicopters with things like Liz. I think Liz is way overtuned right now and she's definitely in need of a nerf. And this is obviously a high effort option, what I'm about to say, but I would rework Liz entirely. Give her a SRAW. The TV missile launcher, while it's unique, while it's new in the game, I just don't think it works. The fact you can fire missiles from out of line of sight, you get 2 missiles on spawn, you can just keep redeploying and shooting more and more and more. It really is oppressive. One good Liz player can completely shut down anyone in the heli. I don't care who it is in the heli, they shoot enough missiles and you will die eventually. Anyways, I'd be keen to hear in the comments what would you guys do to change the vehicles now, or just change the game in general to bring it back to that kind of Battlefield experience we're all used to in the previous titles. I'd be interested to hear that. Anyways, as far as these changes go, we don't actually know the date of them yet, but I would say probably within the next 3 weeks or a little bit after, because the Battle of Nordvik event is coming really, really soon. And that is a 3-week event that should really bring the community together. I'll show the trailer in the background right now, but basically, each week of this event, we're getting a different experience. Basically, just a different game mode each week. Week 1 is going to be the Assault on Nordvik event, which is a 64-player Conquest Assault mode, which is a mode from those older games. Week 2 is a Defensive Nordvik, which is a kind of new mode called Retribution. It's 32 players, and it looks to be the exact same as Rush from what I can tell. And then finally, Week 3, probably one of the best, it's called Breakthrough Chaos, and it'll be 128 players. Now this seems like it's going to be really fun, just having hopefully all the players in the same servers should really bring the game a bit more alive than it has been. Because one of the issues with 2042, especially in these smaller regions, is the whole player base gets split across all these different modes, Portal, all that stuff. And it can be hard to find servers, full servers at that. And sometimes you're just playing against the same players all day, it gets a bit boring. This should actually bring the community together a bit, so I'm looking forward to that. Anyways, that's about it for now. The game is actually on a pretty good trajectory now, and while I'm grateful of that right now, it does also hurt to think that if they just delayed the game for a year, it could have went huge. The new COD is so boring to me. I think that 2042 is a better game, and it actually solves a lot of the issues like SPMM, overpowered aim assist, just instant time to kill, EOMM, all these things that the new COD has. 2042 doesn't really have any of it, so it provides a safe space from all those COD issues, and if the game just released in a good state, I think it would have done so much better. First impressions really do matter, but what can you do, I guess? Hopefully it's a lesson for the next title, which is one that I'm definitely excited for, especially with all the changes in leadership. All that said though, take it easy guys. Peace.